Welcome to study session 13, Personality Theory, Psychoanalytic. Introduction. When psychology emerged as an independent scientific discipline in Germany during the middle of the 19th century, it defined its task as the analysis of consciousness in the normal adult human being. It conceived of consciousness as a being made up of structural domains that were closely correlated with processes in the sense organs. Freud's attack upon the traditional psychology of consciousness came from quite a different direction. In this study session, you will be introduced to psychoanalytic theory of personality as propounded by Sigmund Freud, the principles of psychoanalysis, the assumptions of psychoanalysis, psychosexual development, and the intra-psychic structures. Learning outcomes for study session 13. At the end of this lecture, you should be able to 1. Explain psychoanalytic theory of personality as propounded by Sigmund Freud. 2. Discuss the principles of psychoanalysis, the assumptions, the psychosocial development, and the intra-psychic structures. The life history of Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud was born in Moravia, May 6, 1856, and died in London, September 23, 1939. He entered the medical school, the University of Vienna, in 1873, and graduated from there 8 years later. In his medical career, Freud specialized in microanatomy and neurophysiology. His scientific training and many years of work in physiological laboratory taught him the value of the empirical approach. The Darwinian views of evolution emphasize the defensive and adaptive nature of an organism, a theme later repeated in Freud's theories. Traces of the new thermodynamic concept in physics, such as the conversion of energy, are also found in Freud's conceptualization of psychic energy. Freud later studied with Jean Charcot, who was using hypnosis in the treatment of hysteria. He later collaborated with Joseph Breuer on several cases, thus resulting in a publication entitled Studies in Hysteria. Basic concepts of psychoanalytic theory. The theory of psychoanalytic is explained below. A. The psychoanalytic view maintains that all behavior is caused or determined by internal factors. Therefore, all behavior is meaningful, even if the meaning is not apparent to the conscious mind. Freud believed that our actions, our dreams, our errors, even our slips of the tongue, all have meaning and are determined largely by conscious processes. Therefore, the first general feature of psychoanalytic theory is that it is based on the principle of psychic determinism. B. Closely related to this is a second characteristic, the emphasis given to unconscious processes. Unconscious thoughts and motives cannot be observed directly. They can be inferred, however, from the patient's dreams and free associations, which are less subject to conscious control. Freud believed that most of our actions and mental functioning are determined by unconscious forces, particularly those portions of behavior regarded as abnormal or irrational. C. A third characteristic of the psychoanalytic theory is the central role played by drives or instincts. The theory proposes that we are all born with instinctual needs that provide energy for the operation of the psychic system. This energy is called libido, and the instincts contributing to it are listed below. 1. Self-preservation. 2. Sexual. 3. Aggressive. Freud perceived the instincts as genetically determined biological needs. Unsatisfied instincts were said to create tension, within the individual. Reduction of these tensions by satisfying the instinctual demands was experienced as pleasurable. Libido. In Freudian theory, the repository of psychic energy and the mechanism that directs the energy toward desired objects and goals. D. A fourth characteristic of psychoanalysis is its dynamic nature. The individual expends energy in the pursuit of his or her goals. This psychic energy is channeled by conscious and unconscious forces that operate in a purposeful fashion to achieve their aims. In Freud's theory, the structure of the mind can conceivably be seen as comprising three main parts, differentiated by their functions. These are the id, the ego, the superego. A. The id. The newborn infant is all id, a reservoir of instinctual, primitive, drive-related biological energy. The basic instinctual drives, of which the most important is the libidinal or sex drive, are simultaneously the source of all thinking, feeling, and behavior. A primary function of the id is to maintain a balance in the forces which pull people in various ways. Tensions build up in the id and demand release. When there is a need to reduce tension, the id conjures up an internal fantasy of the object of the instinctual drive, for example the mother, and achieves vicarious satisfaction by releasing the tension in relation to the fantasy rather than to the real-life object. B. The ego. This is the executive aspect of the personality and mediates between the instinctual demands of the id and the requirements of reality. The ego functions to bring the discharge of energy under control. It encompasses the conscious aspect of personality, including the individual skills and abilities, his fears and hopes. C. The superego. The superego develops in turn from the ego and is the structure that represents the standards and ethical values learned through contact with society in general and with parents in particular. It is closely connected to the ego but retains considerable independence. The superego acts to perfect and civilize our behavior. It works to suppress all unacceptable urges of the id and struggles to make the ego act upon idealistic standards rather than upon realistic principles. The superego is present in the conscious, preconscious, and the unconscious. Freud has divided the personality into three structures, namely the id, wholly unconscious and primitive, the ego, conscious and very rational, and the superego, or the conscience, the moral aspects of the personality. Psychosexual development. As the person grows from infancy to adulthood, the energy and the libido progressively centers on different parts of the body. The stages of development are indicated by these various areas, called erotogenic erogenous zones by Freud. Conflicts at each psychosexual stage must be resolved before the individual passes on to the next stage. Therefore, when a substantial part of the libido is left behind or fixated, the individual's personality may become dominated by less mature modes of obtaining gratification or tension reduction. The stages in psychosexual development are A. The oral stage, B. Libidinal drive stage, C. The phallic stage, D. Child latency period, E. The genital stage. A. The oral stage. The first stage is the oral stage, the time when the infant is completely dependent upon others for its survival, and the libido expresses itself through sucking and chewing. Adult behaviors such as aggressive gum chewing and smoking, verbal aggression, and other oral activities are related to the person's experiences with early oral pleasures. In Freud's view, failure to resolve the Oedipal complex is one of the most important sources of the sense of guilt which so often torments neurotic people. D. Child latency period stage. Freud felt that after about the 6th year, the child's sexual urges were dormant until their reawakening at puberty. During this period, the libido is channeled into school activities, relationship with peers, hobbies, and so on. E. The genital stage. At puberty, the adolescent becomes sexually mature and the libido is centered again on the genital area. The person learns to direct sexual impulses towards appropriate objects and to enter into satisfying adult relationships. Summary of study session. In this study session, you have learned that 1. Sigmund Freud was born in Moravia, May 6, 1856 and died in London, September 23, 1939. He entered the medical school, the University of Vienna in 1873 and graduated from there 8 years later. In his medical career, Freud specialized in microanatomy and neurophysiology. 2. The psychoanalytic view maintains that all behavior is caused or determined by internal factors. Therefore, all behavior is meaningful, even if the meaning is not apparent to the conscious mind. 3. In Freud's theory, the structure of the mind can conceivably be seen as comprising 3 main parts, differentiated by their functions. 4. As the person grows from infancy to adulthood, the energy of the libido progressively centers on different parts of the body. The stages of development are indicated by these various areas, called erogenous zones by Freud. We have come to the end of study session 13. Thank you.